Welcome to the Fierce and Fit Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Clarice Yao, a holistic health coach dedicated to helping women over 40 achieve their fittest, fiercest selves. Each week, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges of menopause, including belly fat, weight gain, muscle building, hormonal imbalances, and more. These episodes are recorded live from my free Facebook group, Fierce Women Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Be sure to check the link in the show notes to join our incredible community and access free content, challenges, and resources designed just for you. This is live number 215. Yes, we have gone live 215 times, which is crazy. And today's topic is metabolic reset after 40, why dieting fails and what actually works now. Now, before I start, I actually like to ask, because I do a brief intro anyways, I like to ask how many of you have dieted before? And I want you to not just put yes, but I want you to put what kinds of diets you've done before, whether it's Weight Watchers, keto, fasting, whatever. I want you to put below how many of you on here watching actually have dieted before. So this is the Fierce Woman community where we sculpt powerful bodies and champion mindsets. First off, I want to give a shout out to all the ladies that are in the 4-week bikini series. Obviously, this is a brand new challenge series and it's very different from anything Clarice has done. And hopefully you guys are enjoying it. If you are, tell me what you love about this new challenge. I love hearing some feedback. Put it below, drop a heart if you enjoy this challenge that's just started, okay? As well, I want to give a shout out to the two FFF ladies being coached by Oshone, Cindy Hiram and Kelly Couture. They're both amazing. They're so engaged. I love this group of FFF ladies. And I know they've already started having wins. They've only just started 1 week, but they've already dropped, I know Cindy dropped 4 inches off last week. And she had 2 inches drop off her lower abdomen and 2 pounds down from the week. And then Kelly Couture dropped 7.85 inches off and half an inch off her midsection and another 2 pounds. So really great start for these ladies who just started the FFF group program. So give them lots of hearts. Like I said, my phone doesn't give me hearts anymore. So drop the hearts, hit the heart button for these ladies who started the FFF group coaching program. Now, the 5-day reset challenge we just did last week, I was using that to gauge sort of what to do in sort of a new challenge and also future things I'm planning. So I want to give a shout out to these ladies that we posted their wins. In the 5-day reset challenge where they had the nutrition and workout, Glenda dropped 7.6 pounds down, woohoo, and 3.5 inches off her waist. So super cool. That was in 5 days. Jude, who's on here, experienced less bloating, inflammation, and dropped 5 pounds down. Tamara Lynn Franshaw dropped 3 pounds down, and Deej lost 4 pounds and felt a lot less bloated. So give these ladies lots of hearts, super excited because obviously they dropped the pounds, the inches, and it shows there is a certain methodology involved with it. Okay. And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today to help you understand why and what works, right? Just like Drew said, what really works. Like, it's just not magical protocols. It's that there's actually reasons behind everything I tell you to do. And some are more complex and some are just simpler because, you should know it, but it's easy to do and easy not to do, like walking after you eat, so sometimes it's easy, but you never thought about it. Or sometimes it's super complex and you're like, I don't understand half the hormone stuff that Clarice talks about. So this is what today's live is all about. Let's dive right into it. Again, the theme for today is metabolic reset after 40, why dieting fails and what actually works now. Okay. So the first thing we're going to establish is, what does metabolic reset actually mean? Okay. So metabolic reset refers to restoring your body's ability to burn fat efficiently, regulating blood sugar well, and maintaining lean muscle. Okay, so it means putting your body back into a fat burning state, getting your blood sugar levels proper, and able to maintain lean muscle mass. Now, a lot of times this is really needed for a lot of women because chronic dieting, stress, and hormonal shifts really messes with your metabolism. Before I continue, those three things usually causes metabolic disruption. So if you are listening, have you had chronic dieting? Have you had a lot of stress or cortisol? Or do you experience a lot of hormonal shifts? Which one do you believe you struggle a lot with that is causing potentially a metabolic disruption? Chronic dieting, stress, or hormonal shifts? Okay, so put it below. Which one? Chronic dieting, stress, or hormonal shifts? Okay, so identify this for yourself. So the next thing is, it's not about a detox or a tea or a quick fix when you want metabolic reset. It's about recalibrating the system. So why I say this is, and I smiled because for a lot of you, you're always so excited when I throw a free challenge on, and it's like, we get the tea again. I like the tea. And I think it's awesome. It's a great start, and it's a great way to start to put your system in a good gear. However, I think what we have to be very clear on is that that's a really good start, and it can help you maybe drop a little bit of inflammation, drop a little bit of water off of you if you're holding too much from the inflammation. But what I want you to be clear on is, unless you truly tackle the things underneath it, you doing a 4-day detox, 5-day thing, 1-week thing is not going to actually fully change your system. So this is what I want to talk about. It's not about detox, not juicing, not cleanses, which many of you think that is the key. And that's what I want you to understand. Actually, that's not. Okay? It can be a great start. It could be a great way to get you back onto good habits. But a lot of you think, oh, it's your tea again. Oh, it's this. It's like, I'm going to now drop pounds and inches in weight or whatever. And that's what I want to correct here. Okay. So what is recalibration of your metabolism? Recalibration of your metabolism is going to take 3 areas. You need to work with your cellular energy, which has to do with your mitochondrial function. Number 2, you have to work with your hormones and put it into a more optimal hormone sensitivity state, which I'm going to dive into. And number 3, you need to actually optimize muscle to fat ratios in your body. Okay. So we've established no detox tea, no quick fixes. That's not the real change you're looking for. It's kind of like someone who, I always say, it's nice to put a nice dress on and cover up the belly fat or cover up the shape of your body. But underneath the clothes, is it really actually healthy? Are you actually lean and fit and all of that? And that's what I'm saying is maybe a detox tea or some sort of 4-day thing can on the surface help a little bit, but what I'm trying to get at is what's actually underneath the clothes. That's what I'm trying to say in the recalibration of your metabolism. Hopefully that makes sense. Nobody's stripped here, okay? So, so the first thing is cellular energy system, okay? So in order to recalibrate, you need to recalibrate your cellular energy, which is your mitochondrial function. So why does this matter is that the mitochondria is in charge of converting nutrients into ATP, your cellular energy, right? And this is really, really important for energy across all ages. But as you go into menopause, the mitochondrial efficiency greatly decreases. So when you have less ATP, lower energy, you will have slower recovery and reduced fat oxidation. So when this happens for you, you have to think, okay, how do I stop this? How do I not allow my mitochondria to decline and become less and less efficient? Okay, this is something that you want to think about. And one of the things that speeds this up, meaning it speeds the decline, not speed up the metabolism, but speeds up the decline, is the drop in estrogen. So the older you get, from 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, the more likely this mitochondrial efficiency is going to drop off. So we need to think of solutions of how to help this mitochondrial function more effectively and efficiently. So I'm going to talk about solutions as we go along. There's many sections to today's live. Hopefully you're going to be taking notes. Right now, I'm just helping you understand what you need to think about in resetting your metabolism. Number 2 is hormone sensitivity. So a key thing for you all to understand is it's not just about your hormone levels. It's about your hormone sensitivity to these hormones, including, these are very crucial ones, insulin, cortisol, estrogen, and thyroid. Why I want you to be careful about what I said here is that people tell me, oh, I just got a hormone test and the levels are sort of normal. They told me, I forgot what somebody this morning told me, like I had a hysterectomy. They told me my hormones are somewhat okay. And then I said, hormones being somewhat okay does not mean hormones are optimized, right? And so I want you to be clear that what you need is hormone sensitivity, not just hormone levels. Because a test can tell you the hormone level, but it doesn't tell you how receptive and sensitive you are to these hormones, okay? So let's talk about each of these hormones. So insulin, it becomes less efficient due to estrogen loss. And when it is less efficient, meaning shuttling like sugar into like the cells, then there will be more fat storage. So if your insulin is not responding well, again, sensitivity, not just about insulin level, but about how it responds, you're going to have more fat storage, okay? Cortisol, your cortisol is often caused by the midlife stress, your poor sleep, overtraining, under eating, like a lot of women. And this causes a massive cortisol dysregulation, okay? And when cortisol is largely dysregulated, it means, and it's actually more complicated than just cortisol. When cortisol is influenced, it influences all the other hormones and their receptivity. You can basically think of it like a net. I mean, this is just an analogy, but the analogy is this net will cover the other hormones, making it harder for the receptivity for thyroid, for estrogen, for human growth hormone, for insulin growth factor, because cortisol has produced a net. This is just analogy, of course. So this is why I speak a lot to a lot of women in the messenger, on our SMS. I always refer, where's your cortisol level? Or I'm asking about your cortisol level, right? Estrogen. The loss of estrogen, obviously declines with age, and it increases inflammation because estrogen is a protector against inflammation. So when estrogen drops, then inflammation rises, right? And so naturally, this one's kind of self-explanatory. Estrogen doesn't respond well. So we're talking about sensitivity, right? We know this. It doesn't respond as well as, as you age, okay? And then thyroid. So thyroid is a very interesting one. I'm going to talk more about it when we get to dieting. So just kind of an overview. When you chronically diet or undereat, you really lower your active thyroid hormones, which is your T3 hormone. And when you are constantly go back and forth between yo-yoing and then doing this, then restricting this, then doing all of this, it really down regulates, and it doesn't allow that conversion from T4 to T3. T4 is the unusable form to T3 usable form. And so again, the thyroid one is controllable if you can understand what you need to do. Okay. And so that's the hormone sensitivity. Like, I want you to understand what hormones are being influenced here. Okay. And then the third thing is muscle to fat ratio. So you may know muscle is very metabolically active. And after 40, anybody here after 40? Everybody raise your hand except Oshone. Who here is after 40? So if you say I'm after 40 or after 50 or after 60, so that means sarcopenia is already happening, which means muscle loss is accelerating. So when you lose muscle, you're lowering your metabolic rate because you're lowering the muscle base, right? And this becomes it's going to influence a lot of things, because if you have lower muscle, lower ATP, lower energy, lower insulin response, like there's a whole bunch of things that can occur, right? So the top priority here is to preserve muscle. Okay, so this is kind of what I said earlier. The recalibration of, your metabolism is going to take understanding your cellular energy system, which I talked about, mitochondrial function, understanding how to make your hormones more sensitive, and number 3, how to have better muscle to fat ratio. Okay, so let's talk a little bit of the actions and what a reset kind of looks like. Okay, so the first thing is, in resetting the metabolism, you need to replenish nutrients and restore metabolic flexibility. So this is extremely important. What do I mean? Metabolic flexibility is your body's ability to switch between burning carbs to burning fat efficiently, being able to switch between one side to the other, meaning it can burn carbs and then it can burn fat and then it can burn carbs and it can burn fat. A very healthy metabolism can do this extremely efficiently. Okay. Most menopausal women are metabolically inflexible. So I want you to think about yourself, because I posted a post yesterday asking, do you feel like your metabolism is the reason why nothing is moving forward? And a lot of you said, yeah, I think so. I've been thinking about it. It is my metabolism, right? So most menopausal women are metabolically inflexible due to chronic dieting, low muscle mass, and insulin resistance. Okay, so this is a result of those things that you might have been doing. Now, what can you do in terms of starting to reset this metabolism? Is you can learn to cycle carbs strategically. However, this is the part that I find very interesting. There's a lot, like I've done it with some of my muscle accelerator clients, not all, I like only 2 of them I've done this with. But like cycling carbs is a strategy to create metabolic flexibility. But in order to do that, you actually have to have very good understanding between starch carbs and fibrous carbs and the amount of carbs you need in your system. So this one's a little bit more complex, and it's not just like, oh, okay, like just cycle carbs, like there's a little bit more behind it. But just so you understand, that is one way to create flexibility. You have to create more fuel, but have more fuel for your workouts. So actually what that means is you actually need more food. Now, half the women just went, I have to eat more food. And I say yes. And then some like people are like backing up slowly, because I'm coaching someone who is exactly in this stage right now, is really, 2 of them that are really like, oh, okay, I have to eat more. Really? Yes. You want to reset your metabolism. You actually need more food and fuel, particularly if you are pairing it with strength training. This is really important. Okay. Number 3 is you need to include healthy fats. And this is something I talk a lot about, is the macronutrients. Protein, carbs, and fat has to be involved in this to create good, full metabolism. So you need to cycle carbs strategically. You need to fuel more food for your workouts. You need to include healthy fats, and you need to optimize your micronutrients. There's a lot within this, but I often talk about vitamin D, vitamin B, a whole bunch of stuff. But today's live is not for me to get into specific micronutrients, but you do need good micronutrients to also support metabolism and proper metabolic rate. Okay. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to increase my metabolic flexibility, I want you to put metabolic flexibility below, because there's a number of things that you have to do to improve the flexible, back and forth between carbs and fat. So if you want to increase metabolic flexibility, put that below. Okay. So number 2 is we need to repair the stress response and optimize cortisol rhythm. So cortisol should spike in the morning and then decline slowly through the day. However, chronic stress will lead to a flatline cortisol or reversed cortisol. So what do I mean by this? So a lot of menopausal women actually struggle with reversed cortisol, but don't realize it. They wake up extremely tired, and they're tired, their energy is low, and then because cortisol is actually low, but cortisol is supposed to be higher in the morning. And then by the time nighttime comes, they have a hard time sleeping, which means cortisol was rising through the day instead of declining through the day. Okay. So they do the opposite, the reverse cortisol rhythm. Okay. And reverse cortisol rhythm actually causes fatigue, belly fat, and very low motivation. If this describes you, where you're like, oh my gosh, she's describing me. I get up tired. I'm tired in the morning. I had to drink 3 cups of coffee. And then I'm like at mid-afternoon crash. And then at night I have trouble sleeping. Like if this is you and you're on a reverse cortisol, or you feel like you lack motivation, this could potentially be you. And you can put cortisol below because you're identifying you probably have cortisol dysregulation. Okay. So in terms of resetting, well, one thing is obviously, like I kind of mentioned it in this week's metabolic reset about like going for walks, getting some sunlight in, because those things like fresh air, sunlight does have a lot to do with your circadian rhythm. And some of the other things is, monitoring your caffeine, understanding like, again, what kind of supplementations can help you. Like magnesium is a really important one. And also cortisol control is in your food and in your workouts. And I always say, like, if you don't know how to control cortisol in food, it most likely means that you have inflammation in your food that you don't understand. And if you don't know how to control cortisol in your workouts, it means you're training in a way that is spiking your cortisol. So the thing is, yes, there's lifestyle things that I suggest within this week's protocol for the 4-week bikini series, and you don't need to be a part of it to watch this live. However, the people who are playing the bingo cards, yeah, there's lots of good things suggested in there. But if we're to be more specific, is your body, are you actually like nutrition wise really bringing down the cortisol? Are you in your workouts really bringing down the cortisol? If you're like not sure and you want to have better cortisol control, then put cortisol below. All right, number 3. So number 3 is to rebuild lean tissue with protein and strength training. Now, women over 40, you need more protein and more resistance training to stimulate muscle synthesis, okay? The reset goal for a menopausal woman is to trigger an anabolic pathway. When I say trigger an anabolic pathway, I am referring to something called the mTOR pathway. The mTOR pathway is a very specific pathway in your body. It stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin. The mTOR pathway is a key cellular signaling pathway that regulates growth, repair, and muscle protein synthesis. So think of it this way. The mTOR pathway is your muscles building switch, okay? When the mTOR pathway is activated, it basically tells the body, we have enough nutrients, energy, and stimulus. It's time to build and repair tissue. So the mTOR pathway is extremely important to actually activate. And we need this for menopausal women because your anabolic pathway is decreasing. Okay. So why mTOR pathway matters is that as you become more resistant to muscle building, like I said, your anabolic pathways kind of get stunted. Like again, like traffic, think traffic, right? It's like blockages, traffic jams. It's not running so smooth like it used to. And with less estrogen, you basically have, in the same analogy, you don't have the traffic cops anymore. You get it? Like estrogen's like the traffic cops is like, oh no, you're going to block traffic, move aside, and, previously you had a lot of estrogen helping you with that, but now those traffic cops are gone and there's garbage being dumped in the middle of the road. There's car crashes being stopped in the middle of the road. So your anabolic pathway is getting stuck, right? It's not fully being able to go through as well as before, okay? So this means you need more effort to get the same muscle response. So when I say more effort, I mean more protein and more strategic training, okay? So what do I mean by this is, yes, you need higher levels of protein as a menopausal woman, but you also need like not necessarily more training, but more specific ways of training that really helps activate these pathways. The reason why I don't want you to think it's just more training is because if you train more and overdo it or do crazy different moves that your body can't handle, then your cortisol is going to spike, right? So it's more about strategic exercises and movement, which actually ties in a lot into what I always say, MTP protocol, okay? Which is menopausal training protocol, meaning the specific ways of how you train really impacts your body. The way that you train, what you do, types of exercises you do, how you progress the muscle overload, the type of differences between compound movements, HIIT training, cardio, mobility, work, rest recovery, like there's a whole gamut of stuff you need to consider. The MTP protocol is all about how can you use these different methodologies to optimize hormone in your body. And when I say optimize hormone in your body, I'm saying that optimize the mTOR pathway, which also relates to activating more human growth hormone, insulin growth factor, while lowering cortisol as much as you can. This requires a very specific understanding of what exercise does what. And sometimes a lot of women I coach think it's about doing more, but it's about better technical execution. I met with 3 new clients last week and we went through those fitness assessment. Those of you know, like Ruby, I forget who else, but it's that the way that you are doing the movements only activates about 40% efficiency of your muscle when you can actually be activating 99 or 95, maybe 99 is really high, 95% of that muscle activation. So in fact, you can do less, but actually achieve more. And this is what a lot of women may not understand. They're like, I have to do more. I have to do more squats, more workouts. I have to go to the gym more. And that's kind of where you're going off, right? Is we want more effective strategies for building muscle. And that's why I talk about MTP protocol. So if you are wanting to learn about better, so I say MTP protocol, but this time I'm going to ask if you want to understand better mTOR activation, which is part of MTP protocol. But if you want to understand better mTOR pathway activation, then you can put mTOR below. So mTOR is mTOR, okay? And again, that stands for mechanistic target of rapamycin, okay? That specific pathway. So mTOR activation is the pathway that needs to be activated in order for you to build muscle, okay? So that is the 3 areas that you can really work on. A little bit more science into why metabolism changes after 40. So it's kind of summarizing a little bit of the above what I said, but just in a really concise way. Your metabolism is changing after 40 because 1, you are losing estrogen. Estrogen impacts insulin sensitivity. It lowers it, okay? That increases potential fat storage and appetite regulation. Number 2, you have reduced muscle mass because of sarcopenia, which I just described above. So this lowers your resting metabolic rate. Number 3, there is changes in your cortisol pattern. So you are going to now experience more abdominal fat and disrupted sleep. Number 4 is mitochondrial decline. So because your body is having that less and less efficient mitochondria, you have less and less energy at the cellular level. So that was just a summary to understand the loss of estrogen, the loss of muscle, the disruption of cortisol, and the mitochondrial decline. All 4 of these things is causing metabolic changes after 40. So you're not imagining it. yes, your metabolism is changing, but there are ways that you can specifically activate it, just like I said above, and we'll get into a few more things later below. Okay, so let's dive into common diets or gimmicks that fail women over 40. So we're going to talk about some of the very common low calorie diet things. Okay, so the first thing is what I said, very low calorie, like people sticking to eating very little. Okay, if you are eating on very low calories because you're trying to lose weight, this is one of the most dangerous things for your body. And I know I speak to many people who come to me who eat extremely low. I know you guys are afraid to eat more food, but when you eat low calories, you trigger muscle breakdown, you lower your thyroid output, and you increase cortisol, causing fat retention. Okay, so low calorie diets, even if you're not trying to, you're just like, I'm just not hungry, as I hear a lot, you need to try to eat more. But it is learning to eat more of the healthy food, learning to eat more of macro balance, learning to eat more of non-inflammatory foods, which I speak a lot about. So if you fall into the trap of low calorie diets, I want you to put that below. If you're like, yeah, I tend to eat low. And if you don't know what low calorie is, if you ever log your food and you are below 1200, you are low. And that is a lot of women I see when they start logging for me. Okay, how many of you struggle with low calorie eating? Put it below. Okay, so the next thing is keto with no protein focus. Okay, so keto is it's a very interesting philosophy. And I don't know if you know, keto was developed for people with epilepsy originally, but people took it and then it became this big thing and all of that. So keto, like meaning you like stop eating carbs, you start eating more, high fat. That's a big focus because of keto, right? High fat. So keto, the short-term weight loss, you might have some short-term weight loss, but it greatly suppresses your thyroid, okay? And with not enough protein, let's just say with a lot of the keto stuff, it's like high fat, and maybe they will have protein, but usually not enough. You are going to risk losing muscle, right? So let's talk a little bit about like thyroid, why it gets suppressed in keto, okay? So when you have too few carbs, those of you who are like carb phobic and don't eat a lot of carbs, you need carbs to activate T3, your thyroid hormone, the hormone that fuels your metabolism. And if you don't give it carbs, your body actually will slow down your metabolic rate. So there's a whole bunch of you might be like, I don't want to eat carbs, I'm afraid of carbs. But what you're doing is actually you're causing a thyroid slowdown in your body because it needs carbs to convert T4 to T3. Okay. As well, you know, insulin helps get T3 into your cells. So on keto, insulin stays very low, right? Because you don't get carbs. Carbs activate insulin, right? So if on keto or you're on some sort of low carb, you stay away from carbs, then your insulin is not able to get T3 into your cells. So your cells slow down. How many of you on here are like, yeah, like I'm a little bit worried about eating carbs, or I stay away from carbs. When I try to lose weight, I stop eating carbs. How many of you actually are carb phobic or reduce carbs to try to lose weight? Put that below. And as well, as I mentioned before, keto stresses your body, okay? It really triggers more cortisol because of the imbalance of macros, and chronically high cortisol will block thyroid, as I mentioned earlier. So keto all around, straight through, is like horrible in 3 prongs of your thyroids, okay? So even if you don't identify with, maybe you're like, I don't do keto, but look at your eating. A lot of people, when you eat, you're like, oh yeah, I ate a salad. Okay, now tell me, what's your carbs in there? What is it that you ate salad and what are your macronutrients in there. Because what I see a lot is very imbalanced macros. And this is what's causing massive stress response in your body. And like I explained here, this causes thyroids to be suppressed, and you're already lower metabolism. You don't need to suppress more of your thyroid by eating macro imbalance. And here's the thing I always say to people is I have heard many people tell me high protein, low carbs. And I will tell you that it is a half truth. So I think that people need to be careful about this, because a lot of people tell me on these comments or messenger, I'm still struggling with belly fat. I still am overweight, but I eat high protein, low carbs. And one thing I will ask you is, okay, so what does that mean in your macro balance? And what does that mean for your hormones, right? It's a half truth, because carbs relate to insulin. And if you have diabetes or pre-diabetes, you do need to be cautious of what that looks like. But we have to be careful, because I hear a lot of this. I'm doing good. I'm eating high protein, low carbs. And I'm thinking in my head, like I was even saying to Oshone and Debbie, I said, like red lights going off my head of big hormonal imbalance, hormonal imbalance, hormonal imbalance, hormonal imbalance. So be very careful. It's not about high protein, low carbs. It's about macro balance and hormone optimization. So if you want to learn more about macro balance or hormone optimization, it's kind of connected. You can put that below: macro balance and hormone optimization. Okay. So now, number 3 is juice cleanses and detox tea. So juice cleanses and detox teas is common. Again, I hear just the other day, I was talking with another gal on a call, and she said, yeah, a couple months ago I did a juice cleanse and I feel sort of better, right? And here's the thing is, juice cleanses and detox teas often have no fiber, no protein, and it puts your blood sugar on a massive roller coaster. This actually will worsen your gut microbiome and create more hormonal imbalance, okay? And of course, not to mention, like these juices have a lot of inflammatory markers, okay? A lot of times in them, okay? Not everyone, but quite a lot of them, okay? So I was thinking about this when I was preparing, and I'm like, oh, I know that some of the ladies are probably going to say this, but I feel lighter after a cleanse. Isn't that a good thing? I feel lighter after a cleanse. So I want to help you understand something, is that when you do a cleanse, you're losing water and glycogen, not fat, okay? Juice cleanses drop your carb intake. That causes you to lose stored glycogen, water, so it makes the scale go down, but you haven't activated real fat loss, which is why I say, it can be a good start. But for a lot of people who are just relying on like a 4-day, challenge or something, and then drop a few pounds and then gain back the pounds, like it is a good start, but it really is not going underneath and tackling the fat loss at its root. And this is why I say, like, be careful, because you think it's actually dropping something, but it's not dropping your fat, right? And number 2 is, if you do juice cleanses and all of that, a lot of times you're not getting the protein or fiber. And the protein is really needed for muscle growth, and the fiber is really needed for a gut microbiome balance and estrogen detox. So juices actually can create this massive spike, imbalance, crashes, which actually leads to more cravings, mood, and fatigue later. The only thing is that you sometimes temporarily feel better just because you did a 3-4 day, but the backlash later is more. This is why I'm explaining that it's not necessarily a good thing. And even, we're watching, trust me, on this bikini series, people posting things. And there are some things that people are posting that are interesting. Some of the juice cleanses or things that they're doing, it's interesting. and it's just, there just needs to be more context on it, so that's why it's like you need to think through, is this actually really good for me, or is this actually causing more metabolic slowdown for me, right? And number three, again, the juice cleanses or things like that can increase your inflammation over time due to the high sugar, the lack of amino acids in the juices, and that you need omega-3s involved to calm the inflammation down. So yes, you might feel lighter temporarily, but it's short-lived, and it is kind of at the cost of your metabolism and your muscles. So who here actually tends to do like a juicing, juice cleanse, detox, these types of things? Put it below if you feel like you do that, and maybe you need to reconsider that too. I much rather see you not do that and actually do more macro balanced eating. Okay. So again, if you're like, because I see it in our group, and I see it and I hear it on our calls, if you are doing juicing or juice cleanses, just be a little bit careful. I even see posts on Facebook about I'm drinking this thing and I'm drinking that thing. Again, be very cautious of this. Sure, they may drop 4 or 5 pounds, but it doesn't mean that their metabolism is better, and it doesn't mean their fat loss is better. So like I said, I much prefer that someone is actually macro balanced in their eating and versus a juicing or juice cleanse. So if you want to learn more about like macros or macro eating, put macros below. So let's keep going. So the next thing is over reliance on fasting or a lot of cardio. Okay. So this is a common one. I get asked a lot about fasting. Okay. So fasting is a very interesting one. And of course, I've said this many times before, there is a reason, there's a lot of research behind fasting. But what I'm going to explain to you why it's potentially harmful for menopausal women. Okay, first of all, fasting without strength training can cause muscle loss at an extreme rate. Okay, some women, they just like, I'm going to eat less, I'm going to eat 1 time a day, I'm just not hungry. You're going to lose muscle super, super fast, and you know what that means to your metabolism, right? Long cardio, if you do a lot of cardio, and sometimes people in the morning don't eat breakfast and they go do cardio or fasted cardio and different things like that, this massively increases cortisol and worsens your belly fat. So here's the thing is, some people will tell me, yeah, I fast, but like I also strength train. Okay. So this is going to be my response to you. If you fast and you strength train at the same time, you're actually doing worse, because when you're training, you require more fuel, more food in your body, and you're fasting, creating lack of nutrients and high cortisol because it's responding to no food in this moment. So you are actually burning off more muscle, and you are actually creating even more anabolic resistance, which is relating to the mTOR pathway. So you are causing the anabolic pathway, the mTOR pathway, to slow down when you fast and you don't give it enough nutrients. Okay. So muscles won't grow without nutrients. And often, like, fasting means that the window for muscle repair is not there. So the window for muscle repair is not there. Okay. So, and then of course, like I said, fasting creates cortisol that again puts cortisol in your kind of fasting, and then your strength training creates physical stressor. So stressor and stressor, and then it continues to spike your cortisol. Okay. And then, as well, as I mentioned before, if you fast, it's extremely hard to get enough protein in your body. Most menopausal women need quite a lot of protein. And in the bikini series, I see generally something like 25 to 30 grams of protein. Sometimes it can even be more, but it depends how you distribute it and what it looks like. Okay. The thing is, you need more protein. And if you fast, you're going to have a hard time getting all that protein in, which affects muscle synthesis. Okay. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I need to understand better recovery nutrition, because this is a key. You might be working out, but you're not fueling the body right. And that slows down your metabolic rate, right? Just like I explained here, it really slows it down. So if you want to have better understanding of recovery nutrition, put that below, okay? Now, I'm going to dive into the 3 biggest lies women over 40 are told about fat loss, okay? So the first lie that they're told is you just need to eat less and move more. Now, I speak a lot about this specific oversimplified statement. And trust me, people still say it, especially men. Well, they just have to eat less and go exercise more and she's going to drop weight. I hear all the time. I hear men say this a lot because it works for them. It works for their body. It works when their testosterone is 15, 20 times yours. And it doesn't make sense to a menopausal woman because it oversimplifies and ignores hormonal, metabolic, and muscular changes in your body. Men do not deal with these hormones. They don't deal with massive metabolic downregulation. They do slow down their metabolism eventually, but they don't deal with massive. And neither do they deal with massive muscular changes like women. And that's a very oversimplified statement. Oh, like just eat less and go to the gym more, right? And so this is something I want you to really pay attention to is like, listen carefully. Yes, you guys ready for this? And write this across your sheet. It's not eat less and move more. It's eat more and move more strategically. It's not eat less, move more. It's eat more and move more strategically. Okay? So it is the opposite. Write that across your sheet. Now, let's talk about this because I'm not saying just eat more like pizza. I'm not just saying eat more chocolate cake. I mean, it's super yummy, but of course, you know what I mean. It still needs to be healthy and has to pay attention to certain principles. Let's talk about what eat more, move more strategically looks like, okay? So eat more. You do need to eat more calories, more food, but you need to pay attention to these principles, okay? So proper nutrition protocols is you have to learn what are inflammation markers and bring it down. You can eat more, but you cannot eat more inflammation markers. Make sense? Absolutely need more food, but you cannot be putting more inflammation markers in your system. So you have to know what inflammation markers are. Proper nutrition protocol, you have to know your macro combos. You have to know how to put your food together to optimize the hormone regulation. This is all about hormone regulation, okay? So I'm not just saying this to say this. If you eat a lot of high protein, low carbs, you're doing something to your body. You're sending a certain signal to your body. And if you eat high protein, high fat, no carbs, as sometimes I see, that's like also a problem because there's nothing there at all. Or you have the other way around. So high protein, carbs, but no fat. That's a major problem for your body. If you have no fats, good luck to all your hormones, and all your sex hormones are done. You know, none for you, right? So it's like you have to know how to combine your macros. Those are macro combos. So those 3 nutrition protocols are very important. So you need to identify inflammation markers. Yes, I teach it in the program. That's why Jude says I remember that about inflammation markers. You need to know your macro combos, and you need to have macro precision in your numbers. Sorry, I didn't say that yet, but you have to have macro precision in your numbers. The macro precision in your numbers is about the final fine tuning. But I said, like, you have to understand when you take away inflammation from your body, it is like priming a canvas white, ready to paint your beautiful artwork. Priming is extremely important. However, there's no artwork on it until you use a paintbrush to paint in the beautiful pictures, right? And macros is like the paintbrushes, 3 paintbrushes, protein, carbs, and fat. The problem is if you're handed a kindergarten paintbrush, because I know I taught kindergarten in grade 1, your artwork would look sloppy. If you were handed a professional high-grade artist brush with really good bristles, with excellent precision, you can create a masterpiece that you can sell for millions of dollars. As you might know, those artworks that sell for $4 or $5 million because of the right brush. And this is why macro precision is extremely important. Knowing your numbers, knowing where they sit, is going to make the final difference whether you have less fat and more muscle. And this is the part that a lot of women miss. They're like, oh, I don't really need to know my numbers. I think I generally know the numbers. I'm just going to eat healthy. And I always say this, I'm like, what does it mean when you say I eat healthy? Some say it's high protein, low fat. Some say I eat high protein, low carbs. Some say I avoid inflammatory markers. And I always then challenge back and say, okay, if you weren't struggling with fat, if you weren't struggling with being overweight, if you were not struggling with belly fat, I would trust you. But if you are struggling with still a lot of weight to lose, you have fat and belly fat on your body, you have hormonal dysregulation and you feel like achy or joints or bloating, then you are missing something, right? And that's why I want you to think carefully, are you missing one of these nutrition protocols, right? So again, put it below. Are you missing inflammation markers? Like need help with inflammation markers, put it below. Or maybe you need help with macro combos, or maybe you need help with macro precision in numbers. And if you're like, I need help with all of them, Clarice, then just say nutrition protocol, because that's my nutrition protocol. Now let's actually talk about proper workout protocols. So again, if you want help with a nutrition protocol, put nutrition protocol below. But let's talk about proper workout protocols. Because notice the phrase that I said. I didn't say move more. And actually, I saw it online. I saw this where people said, yeah, like eat more, move more, eat more, move more, eat more, move more. And I was like, my health coach brain was going off in red lights. Well, like me, all red. But like, it was like, you're telling menopausal women to move more? What if they go crazy and they try to like go and do all this stuff and spike their cortisol? Right? So let's talk about proper workout protocols. Okay. Number 1, you need, like in terms of proper workout protocol, an MTP protocol. The goal is to have workouts that support muscle growth without raising cortisol significantly. That is the foundation of it. Let me repeat that. The goal is to have workouts that support muscle growth without raising cortisol significantly. And why I say that is because when you work out, you are going to have a small spike in cortisol. It is going to happen. However, acute cortisol is actually good for muscle growth, but long-term cortisol is really bad. So you have to understand how to build the program, how to set up the progression of the workouts, even from the start, the first move to the last move of your workout program. How is that strategically placed? Because I do get asked, why do I actually structure my workouts a certain way when I build it for my clients? And there's a reason for that too, right? So remember, the key is workouts that support muscle growth without raising cortisol significantly. So like I said, the MTP protocol is this, but that it is looking at how do you incorporate, let's say, all the different elements like strength training, cardio, stretching, mobility work, rest and recovery, HIIT training, LIT training, which is low intensity interval training. How do you incorporate all of that? That's what MTP is referring to, okay? And as well with proper workout protocols, I just mentioned it, but I want to highlight it. Rest and recovery is extremely important for a menopausal woman. Rest and recovery is like prime because your cortisol is naturally kind of high as you age. So you have to really prioritize that, okay? And your sleep, Your rest, your recovery is extremely important beyond just like working out. But the rest recovery is extremely important. And the last thing is understanding with proper workout protocols is like understanding what produces more human growth hormone and insulin growth factor, because these specific hormones will help you with the mTOR pathway with growing muscles. So as a woman, you don't use testosterone that much, a little bit. Men use testosterone tremendously, but as a woman, you use a lot of HGH and insulin growth factor. And that is what we want to optimize as much as we can. And if you can become an expert at that, you've got yourself in line for many years to come, right? And for the ones who did my 21-day anti-inflammation program, there was a muscle sculpting masterclass in there. And I spoke about HGH and insulin growth factor over 3 hours. And I know people that took that course was like blown away with like the hormones involved with muscle building. And so if you want to understand more about workout protocol, put workout protocol below, okay? Workout protocol. Now, the third lie that women are told is you're gaining weight because your metabolism is broken, okay? So this is something I want to make sure we just reframe it, because I said this last time or 3 weeks ago when I did do another metabolism live, is that your metabolism is not necessarily broken. Broken means it's done, it's gone, you know? It's just that your metabolism is adapted, okay? The body has adjusted to years of low calories, chronic stress, imbalance of your training. That's why it's like adapted, right? But you can reset this with the right strategy, which is the whole point of this metabolic reset. It's not that it's damaged and it's done and whatnot. It's just adapted, and we need to give it new signals. So these new signals include nutrient restoration, strength training with proper protocols, and hormonal support. And again, it relates to everything I said above, just concising it down for you on like, you guys are, what's the solution? What's the solution? I'm telling you what it is. You need to have proper nutrient restoration. You have to have proper strength training protocols, and you need to have proper hormonal support. Okay. So if you feel like hormone support is the area that you really need guidance on, I want you to put that, because hormone support isn't a one thing. It's just very complicated, right? Like I said, it depends. Like again, I'm going to give you examples. Do you skip breakfast in the morning? It's going to tell me something if you skip breakfast. When do you eat the next meal in your day? What do? You do a juice cleanse in the morning? You know, like all the stuff you do in your day really tells me about your hormones. That's why I tell you guys, I have to observe. You have to like log your food. You have to log a lot of things to help me understand what's going on, to be the most adapted to your hormone profile, right? So if you want more hormone support, put that below, okay? And then another thing is, another kind of lie is menopause. Menopause means you're just gaining weight no matter what, okay? So this morning I was in working, and that's why I sent a message to a whole bunch of you, because I put the wrong name. I put my name on there instead of your name. But one of the ladies said, oh, the struggle I have is menopause. And I want you guys to stop there, okay? So when you say that, what does that mean? My struggle is menopause. So I want to kind of help you with this, because it's very crucial that, you know, it's not menopause and that's why you're gaining weight. It's kind of a defeatist attitude, okay? It's that you have things that you're doing that is not supporting the hormones. So because of the hormone shifts, right, you need to focus more on protein. You have to focus more on proper muscle building. You have to know how to handle insulin in your system and the cortisol in your system. And so, like, rather than saying, well, because I'm in menopause, this is why I struggle, I'd rather you guys stop and think about, no, what specifically am I doing that is causing my metabolism to slow down? Not because of menopause, but because of the things, right? So again, I'm going to repeat myself, but it's helping to solidify the concept. So what are you missing here? Okay, I want you to think about this because it's not menopause. That's why you're gaining weight no matter what. It's that you are missing these few things. And if you're missing it, I want you to put it below. Okay, so 1, you're missing macro balanced meals. If you're missing that, put it below. You're missing macro balanced meal. 2, you're missing MTP protocol, meaning you're not understanding how to train, how to rest, recover, the differences between HIIT training, LIT training, mobility work, that kind of stuff. You're missing MTP protocol. Number 3, you don't understand how to work with your insulin. This is going to be really important, how to work with your insulin. And number 4, you don't understand how to control cortisol through your food, your workouts, or your lifestyle. Okay? So these are the 4 things I'm going to say. You don't have the macro balanced meals. You don't have MTP protocol. You're not understanding how to work with your insulin. And number 4, you don't understand how to control cortisol through, controlling the food, the workouts, and lifestyle. Okay? So put it below. What are you missing? So the last thing I'm going to say here, I'm giving you a lot of things to think about how to work with resetting that metabolism. The last thing that I'll say is just the terminology. So again, what's the difference between metabolic adaptation versus metabolic damage? Okay. So again, metabolic adaptation is a normal process. Okay. It's a normal process that your body will go through where it slows everything down to try to help you survive. Okay. So this is your body's natural response to low calories or high stress. If your body has gone through years and years of low calorie or high stress, it's going to slow your resting metabolic rate, it's going to slow your thyroid output, it's going to slow your reproductive hormones like estrogen and testosterone, and it is going to slow your non-exercise movement energy, like you feel sluggish, okay? So it is, if you feel like this, where things are just slowing down, is that your body's adapting slower and slower and slower, okay? Like that's metabolic adaptation, which is what most of you have, okay? And metabolic damage, like I said earlier, is more of a term that might be used colloquially, but it usually doesn't, it is not really true. It's that it's not damage, it's just usually severely adapted, severely adapted, and that you can reverse it. That's the main thing I want you to understand today is you can reverse your metabolism. So let's actually end with this, okay? Now I gave you a lot of things to think about and whatnot. I'm going to talk about four more things in the same context that you need to think about for healing your metabolism, okay? So, do you know the right quality of food to eat? Okay, so if you don't, then you need to put quality of food. Do you know the right quantity of food you need for your system? So quality of food, quantity of food. Do you, again, have the MTP protocol? And do you understand hormone optimization? Okay, so again, if you're like, I need to learn better quality of food, I need to learn better quantity of food, I need to learn better MTP protocol, or I need to learn better hormone optimization, then put it below. Which one? Quality of food, quantity of food, MTP, or hormone optimization. Okay, so that's really all of this, there's a lot I covered, but you notice I keep circling back to the same strategies. So hopefully you guys are picking up on this. I keep circling back to the same strategies, right? Is you have to be able to handle the nutrition properly, and then you need to handle the workouts properly, and then you need to handle your hormones properly, right? In a nutshell. Like if I drew a Venn diagram, it would be like nutrition, your workouts, and then your lifestyle hormone optimization. And it's like the Venn diagram of what a metabolic reset would look like, right? So if you are, again, there's a lot here, and there's very specific things that I cannot discuss completely on this live. For example, somebody will say, well, what's my protein assignment? And I'm like, okay, well, that's individual. Somebody will say, okay, then should I just like eat more fiber? And people are looking for these generalized statements. And that's why I want you to be careful of is like, understand principles, because principles are few, but methods are many. Principles will generally stay the same. And those who follow me for years and years and years know that I say the same principle in many different ways, but the methodology the methods can change because it depends on the person. Okay. Principles are few, methods are many. And if you really listen to this live and took notes throughout, you'll understand I repeated the same principles in like 3 different contexts for you. The strategy is in this live. Okay. But the specific application of how this works, specifically, what's your MTP protocol? What's your hormone optimization? What's your specific protocol is specific to you. So the 4-week bikini series is very good with like overview for all of you. But if you are looking for very specific strategies for yourself, for your body, then I want you to put specific strategies below so that you can like really hone in on that. Okay. And hopefully you found this valuable because, I really tried to help you understand what metabolic reset means and the things that you need, the pillars you need to hit the metabolic reset. And if it helped you, then, give me a heart, put what you love learning the most. And like I said, if you're not part of the bikini series challenge, drop us a note. You can still join in casually from the side. And for those who are in this challenge, go into the group and post what you love learning, because we are looking for who is the most engaged member right now for this 4-week challenge. Remember, there's 3 prizes. There's a supplement prize. There's one who can get access to my muscle sculpting masterclass. So I spoke about this, the muscle sculpting masterclass. And one who would potentially get a discount into one of my programs. So if you are wanting to potentially win the prize, go and post in the group what you love learning from this live. And again, tag your friends, let others know about it. Thank you for joining me, sending you all lots of love. And next week we have the next second part of the series. Okay, love you all.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fierce and Fit Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If something in this episode resonated with you, please leave a review or share it with a friend who'd love it too. Your support means the world and helps us reach more amazing women like you. Until next time, stay fierce, stay fit, and let's keep building your most powerful self.